Hi friends! Thought it would be fun to do a video about decks that have been my workhorses over the years. Um, Sometimes I get like a little tarot nostalgia to stroll through, just decks that have been important. Whether or not they still are is another issue. But I thought it would be fun. So these are kind of the decks that have been more or less my workhorses over the years. These are the ones that I have found myself coming back to over time. And so that's what we're going to do. But I thought on top of that it would be fun to share. So I've talked about the first tarot book I had that didn't really help me because there were no pictures of the cards, but it did force me to buy a deck. This is the book that I actually worked off of, and I've written about it in one of my books anyway. It's the Everything Tarot book. If I remember correctly, it's basically like tarot for dummies, but actually it was pretty good. There were some major layout and editing issues, like chapters that would sort of disappear or repeat or something I can't quite remember. But actually, I took this out to kind of browse through it again tonight because I haven't been feeling well. In fact, I may have to stop this video. But anyway, I just thought it'd be fun. So this is kind of the root of my tree in many ways. Very, very different to where I am today, but this is where it all started. So I'll just put that aside so I can remember to look at it later. Everything kind of starts with the Weightsmith. So I did not include the Weightsmith deck in the stacks of things that I brought down. You know what? I should turn this other light on too because the camera prefers it. That camera. So where do I start? Well, I guess I did bring out a Weightsmith. A handful of sort of related Weightsmitheries. So this is, I will not dwell on this one, but this is the Universal Weight deck, which is sort of famously less ugly than a lot of other versions of it. I have not used this deck in years and years and years. But you can see that this actually is a pretty well-loved deck. You know, this was a deck that I used a lot. And in many ways, because it was a little prettier than the one that I had originally, which I've shown. It's the original Rider-Waite Tarot pack. So this is just Mary Hansen-Roberts sort of redrawing, recoloring of it. I always liked it, but I think I found it a little too safe, in a way. I found it a little too close to the OG, except for a few cards, and I just put one back. Oh, the King of Pentacles, which is my astrological card. I'm a third Deacon Leo, or Decan, and the King of Pentacles rules that Deacon and the first two of Virgo. So, basically getting lumped in with Virgo. So I'm actually not very like the King of Pentacles at all. But so this was my second deck, and it was the Weightsmith that I wound up using much more. That period in the late 90s, early 2000s was like a kind of revolutionary moment for the Weightsmith deck, because people were sort of saying, well, maybe I'll just make a version of it. The publishers were like, well, I'll just do what's always been done and like just redraw it. And that's kind of what this was. I think this was a Los Scarabeo deck. And I think it actually was called the Universal Weight too, or something similar. But I got it because the head of the American Tarot Association at the time sort of recommended it in one of the newsletters. And I basically did whatever I was told by authorities back then. And so I got it, and I think I used it a lot, but I also don't think I ever really liked it that much. Like, it's fine, but it's just the way... Like, everything that I don't like about the Weightsmith deck, I also don't like about this. I don't like the color palette. I don't like the Christianity. You know what I mean? Today, I would say I also don't like that it's all white people, and I think I honestly even felt that way then. I don't think I would have done anything about it, but I think I would have said, oh, that's not cool. But as you'll see, most of these decks have that problem. And so then came... I don't know which was which. So these two decks were sort of next up. This one absolutely was my go-to almost exclusively for a very long time. Like, this was the Hansen-Roberts, and again, you can see how kind of gross and used it is. You know, I really worked with this deck a lot. I took this everywhere with me. And I think you can see why it's sort of a nice alternative to the Weightsmith, if you don't mind, again, kind of all white people. Yeah, I know, there's gonna be comments, whatever. And I don't think I liked that wands were called rods. Like, I was like, what's, okay. But, yeah, it was more attractive to look at. It was a nice size for my sort of small hands, although this is a magician I've never liked, this sort of, like, long-haired Superman moment. But again, everything that I sort of don't necessarily like about the Weightsmith, is sort of here too. But again, this was my go-to deck for a very, 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 very long time. And I haven't looked at this. I mean, it's nostalgic for me because, of course, I really haven't looked at this in ages. And I can, I remember getting this in P-Town, actually. One of the few times I've been there, and I did not have any fun, but that's not unusual for me. This was the best thing about the trip. So yeah, so that's the Hansen-Roberts deck. That was, again, one that I used rather a lot. And then the Robin Wood kind of sort of solved the Weightsmith issue by being less Christian-y and more pagan-y. And this magician, I do love. Like, this magician is one of my favorite magicians of all time. He is so hot that it blows my mind. So, it's quite good. And some of the cards are quite gorge, and the colored pencil that she used is gorge. And then other cards have a really weird vibe. And again, this I would say is like the whitest tarot deck ever. Like, somehow, even of decks that are like all white, people like, this is the whitest. Like, somehow this manages to be the whitest tarot deck ever. This might have been the first one where I was like, yeah, I'm using this enough that I'm going to buy more than one copy of it. Love this Hermit. Never loved this Devil. Gorge. Worst Wheel of Fortune, I think, of any deck I've ever seen. And it is, retroactively, it's so blonde. It's so blonde. Like, it's not just, like I said, it's just white, except for this, like, one card that is, like, vaguely sort of indigenous, but I think kind of, like, indigenous Norse sort of thing. But again, it's like sort of Weightsmith for the most part, minus the, this is so Joy of Sex, I love it. Like, it's too much. Where's that wheel? I quite love that death card. The Fool, I never really liked it. It always sort of reminded me of the Wicker Man. He's cute. Oh, there. Oh, God. Ugh. I hate it. I hate this card. I'm sorry, Robin White. Like, love the deck. This is Vanna White in the Wheel of Fortune, and it just ain't it. But this was that. And then, so, what changed over time? So, like, that's probably, like, Act 1. That was, like, my first... These were, like, my learning decks. These were my workhorses that I read with all the time. And in a way, like, these were the ones that I sort of lived with the longest, except for one other one that I'll show you, I think. I don't know where it went. Did I even grab it? Yes, no, I didn't. Oops. But that's for later. Actually, no. Let's transition with that one. Because I did get this deck back then, but I didn't really start using it until a couple years ago, till last year maybe. So this is the Voyager Tarot. And one of my first decks. I did a video about this last year because I used it for my keyword experiment. And I edged it, which I don't typically do anymore, but... this is a collage deck. It's very glossy. And the edition, this is not my first copy. The first copy that I had, I still have. It's a little larger, it's a little thicker, and it was very difficult to shuffle, which is one reason why I never worked with it. This new or current printing is a little smaller and a little thinner, just slightly, and it just makes it a little easier to shuffle. It is, it's a beautiful. I mean, I think this is a beautiful collage deck. I know collage decks can be very hit or miss for people. I remember seeing this and telling someone, like, I think this is the deck, you know, and it really was about shuffling it that became such a problem. But there are readers who only use this deck. And I can kind of see why. I did take a few of the classes that James Wanless offers on his website, and theoretically I should also have, like, a certification, but, like, really had a confusing interaction with the folks at the website. I don't know if it was James or someone else. I don't think it was James. And so I don't, even though I did the work. So it's very odd, but so sort of if you just... Anyway, I just wanted to sort of see what that experience would be like, because I've never taken a tarot class. But I really love this deck, and again, it is a workhorse for me, and it was among those that sort of first presented a tarot deck without exclusively whiteness. You know what I mean? There's a lot of the world depicted in this deck photographically. And I have found when working with this one that it has a very kind of scrying-esque quality, right? Certain aspects of the cards will leap out at me as I'm reading, as they should. You know, I can't remember if this is a top to bottom or a side shuffle. I think yeah. So this edition shuffles much nicer. And actually, I quite like that purple with this back, which I think is DNA or something? I can't remember. There's some sort of, like, science thing on the back. So, one of the things I think that drew me to this deck at the time was that it was sort of tarot without, like, the esotericism, without the, like, spirituality. It was a little more, like, at the time, this thing of, like, tarot isn't magical. And, you know from my work that I definitely sort of followed that vein up until really recently. But that's a deck that I use now. I didn't really when I got it. I don't know why I'm pouting, but this is a deck that I used a lot when I got it, and though I don't use it as much anymore, I still always love it. This is the World Spirit deck. This is the original Llewellyn edition. There is, I believe, or has been, a independently released second edition, which has a different sun card. The sun card has never been anyone's favorite. It's a little butch, but whatever. This was the first illustrated, by which I mean artist created in the sense of painter, this is woodblock, or rather linoleum block print. That was like, oh no, actually, there's more than just one culture in the United States, or in the world. And so this was the first deck, and this would have been 2001. So 24 years ago, this deck came out into the world and was like, no, tarot's full of white people. And that's not what the world looks like. And this was and has been a go-to that I use sort of and whenever I bring this out, people love it. I remember bringing this with me to the Reader Studio one year, and people were going on eBay immediately and buying used copies of the OG of this one. I have 2 copies of this, and I have 1 copy of the new one. The new one's a little larger. It has some new redrawn cards, but other than that, it has a different back too. But I love this deck. I have always loved this deck. I will always love this deck. I edged it again. This is a deck that I got back then. I would have been 21 then, roughly. This is a deck that I got back then that I still use. Right, so unlike the ones I just showed you that I never use, this one I got then but didn't use until now. This is one that I got 3-4 years after I started. It's hard to do the math, but whatever. But this one I got then and use still. Not as frequently. But mostly because I have so many good decks. I wish I had the bag for this deck. I have no idea where I put that. But it needs a bag. Because all my decks that are sitting outside of bags are starting to fall over the place. So I'm just gonna put you there. So that's, I guess, still part of that early act. And then, I don't know, I fell out of love with it for a while. I fell out of love with tarot, I fell out of love with love questions, which is all I was really getting. I think I just fell out of love with, like, I don't know. But I gave tarot up for a little while, and I said, this is it, I'm done, just like I've done with theater. And I thought I was. I thought I was done with it. I thought I gave it up. I talk about this in probably all of my books. And then, I don't know. I one day was wandering the Barnes & Noble, and, like, this deck came out. And this is the Shadowscapes deck, and it brought me back. This is the Llewellyn edition. I also have the Czech edition, which has the larger, glossy, gilded... But I've always gone back to this version of it. It's just a little easier to shuffle. You know how I feel about glossy cards. This one I actually wrote the astrological associations on. Because... Another one I did that too. Because I do find them useful, I will admit. This, to me, is the most beautiful tarot deck ever painted. Certainly one of... Again, I come back to it constantly. It is a very summer deck for me. I just think it is absolutely beautiful in every way. It is one of the great decks to me. I think this is one of the great decks of all time. And this is a Llewellyn deck on Llewellyn cardstock. This has survived all these years. And again, it's a deck that I use a lot. So, I don't use it on video readings much, because as you can see, it's so kind of image-rich that, like, from this distance, you can't really see what you're looking at. And, like, that's the case with a lot of decks, but I do tend to sort of on video reach for, like, bolder... But I love this deck. Actually, this lavender bag was where Mary Hansen-Roberts lived until it got booted by this. I will evict a deck. I'll evict a deck. Girl, I will evict a deck. And then things started changing for me. And, like, I think the Wild Unknown kind of sums up where I was and where I was going at the time. I don't know why I did that, like, but I did. So this is the first edition. This is actually not the edition that I learned and worked with much, but I've always preferred these backs, and I couldn't find this edition back then. I actually have a bootleg that I thought I got duped on. Well, I thought it was a real legit thing, and I got duped on eBay. I love this deck still. It is an animal nature deck, but it's one of those rare ones that it actually, because it is primarily a pip deck, it was my gateway. It was my adjustment. It was my transition to pip decks. And I still find it really, really a beautiful, beautiful deck. My feelings about the creator have changed over time, both just from hearing stories about interactions. But again, that's always, whatever. You can't judge a book by its cover, I guess. But also, I don't know, I felt really kind of upset by the archetypes deck. I don't know. I'm not going to get into it. Anyway, I do love this deck, and I find it beautiful. I think that this is my favorite edition of it. Of course, it's not gettable very much. I think I got this in a trade because someone really wanted a deck that I had, and I just didn't need anything, and they were like, I have a first edition Wild Unknown, and I was like, I've always wanted a first edition. I think I had another one in the past that I sold for, like, a benefit. But even the original, I do love that devil card. And this death card, which we already passed, taught me a lot about how to read death. So, this was the transition. This was the beginning of Pipland for me. And again, I wish that I didn't get told stories about the creator that make me wish, but, whatever, I don't here. Everyone's a mess anymore. Then came Marseille. Oh, this isn't Marseille. Oh, I thought this was the Marshmallow Marseille. This is not a deck I ever use, but it's a beautiful deck. This is the cloth that I think was made for... I will have... Anyway, the Marshmallow Marseille is, if you want to see it, I have a walkthrough of it from years ago. And it's also the deck that I used in Tarot on Earth. So that was my real first Marseille that I loved. This is the Gaian Tarot by Joanna Powell-Culver. And there's a new, actually, Red Feather edition that looks promisingly good. This, again, I got as a gift. This is the Llewellyn edition, which is long out of print. But at that time, the only version was the Red Feather one, which was really just awful, awful cardstock. So I must have put this in here because I was worried about it getting damaged. I don't not use it because I don't like it. I don't not use it. It's just this, this, I could put this in a stack of decks that, like, decks I love and should be workhorses for me, but that I just never connected with enough to, like, dedicate the time to it. So again, we're transitioning another kind of workhorse. So that would have been the Marshmallow Marseille, but since it's not, here's my other sort of workhorse Marseille. This is the Jean Noblet. This is the Fleur Noire edition, which you can see is very beat up and worn. This is what I based my my own multi-Marseille on, which was the first Marseille. And it was just a way to sort of get more representation into the Marseille. It wasn't really a attempt to create like a great replacement, just like in the meantime, while we wait for the good stuff to come out, that'll do. And so I think I still let it up, but I don't make any money off of it. I just sort of put it up there. I think I make a penny off each purchase because I had to, like, put something there. So, but if you like the Noblet, but you want sort of a more representational one, that's it. So what I'll do now, this is more recent, obviously, but since we're sort of in Marseilleville, the Marseille that I reach for most these days is Charlie Claire Burgess's Gay Marseille, which sort of solves all the problems I think that people have with Marseille decks, which primarily is the color palette and not having anything to interpret. There are, on the minors, sort of interpretable things, like these praying hands and these splashes coming out of the cups. These biblically accurate angels here on the Nine of Cups. Like a thread, needle and thread. Like, there's locks and keys. There's interpretable stuff here. The arabesques aren't purely decorative. So, like here, the grave in the middle. It's delightful in that way. And so I think it solves what a lot of people worry about, or don't like about Marseille. I love the, like, genderfuck pregnant pope drag story hour. Like, it's reclaiming, and I love it. So this is the Marseille that I reach for most these days. What else we got? So now we're just kind of heading into decks that that I use now, that are just like workhorses for me now, in no particular order. Maybe because this is kind of the first. This is the Japarza, which I again used a lot. Don't use it much anymore, and that kind of happens. I love this one. The problem with this one really is the war card, which is the Emperor, but I've gotten used to it. I've also never felt like this back has anything to do with the deck. Like, what? US games? I don't... But whatever. But I do love this deck, and it is, I've told my story, which was that I wanted another deck, and it was out of stock at the Tarot Garden at the Reader's Studio. And so I said, I the first time I went, I didn't have... I only brought, like, the Sheridan Douglas and the Marshmallow Marseille with me. So, but everyone was doing these workshops. So it was like, look at the image on the card. And I was like, these cards really don't have images. So I had to buy something that was interesting to me, but had images on it. And this is what I ended up with. And then it was like, plop, This is it, bitch. This is a deck that you're going to use a lot of. And I adore it. I think it is absolutely beautiful. It's one of my all-time favorites in constant ways, in just so many ways. I love this deck. Don't get the back. Really don't. It went out of print briefly, and then U.S. Games brought it back. Rightfully so. It's in a second edition with really no changes other than some small adjustments to the guidebook, including kind of a primer on how to say the artist's name. This one I'm not going to show. I showed it in my cute decks video, although it is a workhorse. This one is the Thoth, and I gotta tell you, I'm shocked to say this, but this is absolutely a deck that I read with reliably, constantly. It is probably the one that I reach for most, particularly when I'm reading at events. Clients love it, which I was totally not expecting. This is the edition that I prefer, and it is hard to find now. It is the gold edition. It was the special edition in the United States in like a green cloth box. And then A.G. Mueller had a separate one that was the gold edition as well. So the A.G. Mueller one was called the gold edition. The other one was like, the other one, the green box was the Rider-Waite. The blue box was the Thoth. I'm actually looking up here because it's somewhere up there. Anyway, U.S. Game, it was a special edition. Anyway, I like the gilding, weirdly. But this deck just works for me in ways that, like, I never would have thought. Like, it is absolutely a workhorse deck, and I love it. I definitely consider it Lady Frida Harris's artwork and her deck. I think she knew what she had inside her to make, and I think she knew Aleister Crowley, and she was like, this is how it gets done. But I adore this deck. There are only a few cards I don't like. This is one of them. I don't even care about the keywords, whatever. I make it work. This adjustment instead of justice is like chef's kiss to me. I think it's so much more interpretable. And I'm just constantly in awe of these paintings. And so I just say, well, Crowley I'm not a fan of, but at least he enabled, empowered, whatever, Frida Harris to make this. You know, because this deck works. Beautiful. I love it. I get such good... when I read for myself, clear as a bell. It's just how it goes, friends. Decks that I thought I would love, like the Fountain Tarot, I cannot read with. Decks that I have always sort of not liked in previous incarnations or experiences today are go-tos. This deck is sort of like Thoth meets Weightsmith, which is a thing I actually enjoy. This is the Sun and Moon. Again, a back that I really don't understand. What? Again, I don't think these were created by the artist. This is Thothy, but it's something else. It was a deck that I got specifically for my keyword experiment, and it was a deck that I wanted but didn't get because of the keywords or the titles. And then I got it for that experiment and fell head over heels that very day. It is a favorite of mine. It is one that I love to work with for clients. It is one that I reliably love. Most people don't choose it because of the back, but and this is the version I like too. There's a 1 in a 10 that has black borders, and I actually typically really like decks with black borders, but this one, I don't know why. It's just, this is the one I prefer, and I just really, really love the deck. So I don't know why there's reversals in here. I must have dropped it, which is not unlike me. Yeah, I love. This is a deck that I really, really adore and return to constantly. It is an absolute workhorse for me, 100%. This one's not a workhorse, but I need to bring it into the fold. I just love it so much, I keep forgetting I have it. It's the Queer Crow Death Magic Tarot by Frank Duffy Art. I saw this on Instagram, and I think it was Instagram. I had to have it. I love it. It is another linoleum block print deck. It's absolutely stunning. I think they're bringing a second edition or a new printing because the original sold out. It is everything I look for in a deck. It is neutral. It is bold. It is easy to see what I'm looking at. It is great for a video reading, especially when I have to lift the camera up because the images are so striking. It's I don't have anything bad to say about this deck. All right, we're back. Oh, God. Technology. Anyway, I love this deck. I don't know what I cut off at my point in saying, but there's nothing I don't love about it. I want to write the astrological associations on it at some point. I'm waiting for another copy in case I fuck it up. Although I have found that actually a little rubbing alcohol with a Q-tip will sort of take away a badly written... I love this hermit. I love this deck. I absolutely love this deck. That's it. That's all I have to say about it. It's great. It's wonderful. There's a reason why I need to bring it into the fold more. There are just decks that are like, boom, boom, that's the deck. And this one happened to be both a deck where I was like, boom, and it's a great deck, and I can read with it. Is that it? No, there's one more. I think that this is an underrated deck. I don't know why I don't see this more. Maybe because the box doesn't sort of show you any of the cards or much, but it's great. This has become one of my primary reading decks right now. It's the Vintage Tattoo Tarot by Alyssa Wilson. I know there's a lot of tattoo tarots. This one is very different and unique. Those two things mean the same thing, and I just use them. Take that, grammar snobs. I love this deck. It is queer. It is fun to shuffle. It has black borders. It has a fun back with severed hands and bones. It is very good. I have also written the astrological associations on this one. This is the first one I did it with. It's unique. This Five of Swords, for example. Have you ever seen a Five of Swords like that? I haven't. Why don't you have this deck? I don't understand. It's a great deck. It needs more attention. Love this Nine of Wands. Love the Empress. Love the pages in this deck are delightful. Okay? Don't even try to argue with me. And I don't do delightful typically. The pages in this deck are delightful, and they delight me. I love this deck. I think it is wonderful. I bought it on a whim, saying, okay, I dare you. It said on the back that it was queer and whatever, and I was like, okay, it is. It's wonderful. I adore it. I say bravo. And I recommend it highly. And if you want to write on the cards, this is great cardstock to write on, because it's very easy to get off a fuck up, because I fucked up many times. Just see how delightful the pages are? I'm getting a little silly. See, come on. Don't tell me they're not delightful. I don't want to hear it. This is such a tattoo, and I just didn't even know. It was like, oh yeah, that's a tattoo. You know, like, it's just like, oh yeah. I don't know. Like, I don't think every card is a tattoo. I think it's got a tattoo style art, but some of them are. Like, that one is a tattoo. Love the Hierophant. Love the Dev. Wheel of Fortune is not Vanna White. Death is so fly. She's like the Screaming Mimi's girl in Hill House. Page. Delightful. I defy you to not find those delightful. We're going through the whole deck. Fuck it. Fuck that. Fuck the time this video took to make on my card. We're just gonna look at all the cards. Come on. Boom. Ten of Swords. That's a tattoo. Love this deck. Go get it if you don't have it. Come on. Stop fucking around. I thought about honorable mentions. Honorable mentions are things that I should use more. Like the Crystal Visions Tarot. But, this video is already too long. So those are workhorses. Those are real decks. Those are real decks. Those are not actors. Those are decks that I really, really dedicated time with. And several of which still do. What are yours? Make a video in response to this. Why not? I've already done one of these, I think, but what else? What are your workhorse decks? Why not? That's what I got for you today, my friends. Take care, be good, and we will talk soon.